Have you ever baked and you are like, no, this is what I ordered versus what I got? Because I don't know why my cake is looking like what I don't know. Then stay and watch this video because there are some mistakes that you might be making and you're not paying attention to. Hello dear YouTube family, you're welcome to my YouTube channel, and you know that I'm always excited to be here because there is something that you will go back with watching my videos. And you know, here I am all about helping bakers, especially beginner bakers, to help them thrive even in this their journey of baking. And if that is what you are all about, then don't scroll because this is that right place to be. So let's go right into today's video. Today I'll be talking about mistakes that every baker should avoid, because you know, for us bakers, there are things that we do that will cause our baking to go well, and there are things that we will do that will cause our bakings to go wrong. This just simply shows us that there are do's and there are don'ts of baking, and this is why I'll be sharing 5 things today that you need to avoid so as to get your baking right every time. So if you see me looking at my book, it is because I wrote things down I don't want to forget. Alright, so the first thing that I'll be talking about, a mistake that every baker should avoid, will be not having a working recipe. The question will be, what do I mean by not having a working recipe? It means that you are a baker and for your customers, you just pick recipes online randomly and you just bake. Please stop that. That simply means that you don't have a working recipe. So for a baker that knows that you are going to be doing this business for a long time, you are wanting to get customers to be satisfied with what you are baking, you should have working recipe. This will mean that you may choose to buy recipes, because really people that sell recipe, I believe that they have studied and they have worked on their recipe for a long while before they say, okay, this recipe is worthy of being sold. And of course, I also have a recipe book where I shared 5 of my working recipes, from vanilla to red velvet to chocolate to banana bread. If you want it, I'll put a link in my description box of how you can get the book. So back to what I was saying, every baker should have a working recipe. Even if it is recipe that you saw online, at least you should have baked this recipe for like 2 to 3 times to see what is working in the recipe, what is not working in the recipe, especially if you took the recipe online. What I'm saying is that when you see a recipe, either online or one that you bought, ensure that you work with that recipe, bake with that recipe twice or thrice before you conclude that this is going to be something that I can use for my customers. And if you need to tweak anything, just tweak around the recipe and you're going to get something perfect. So please avoid using this vanilla recipe today. Tomorrow you've seen another recipe, you've jumped at it. I'm not saying you should not jump at recipes. I'm just saying that if you want to serve a customer, ensure that you have a recipe that you have worked with over time and you are sure that it will not fail if you bake such recipe for a customer. The second mistake that every baker should avoid will be not following recipes to the letter. You know, there's one thing to have a recipe, there's another thing to follow the recipe to the letter. I've seen online where a recipe says use 2 cups of oil. Then people might feel that 2 cups of oil is it not too much? I'll just use 1.5 and I think that it will go well. And then the cake comes out not so well, and you feel that probably there is something wrong with the recipe. But really, it's not the recipe that something is wrong with. It's just because sometimes you have failed to follow the recipe to the letter. So if a recipe says go for 2 cups of oil, do well to go for 2 cups of oil. And another thing under this point will be that don't highball your ingredients. Don't be tempted to eyeball your recipe to say that let me just measure this flour, I feel that it will give me 250 grams, or let me just measure this sugar, I feel that it will give me 200 grams. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Instead of that, use your scale always. If your ingredient says, your recipe says to measure 250 grams, ensure to measure exactly 250 grams so that you can get the result that you are anticipating. So number 2 thing will be that do not eyeball your recipe. Follow the recipe to the letters. If a recipe says mix sugar and oil first, don't say no, I'll mix sugar and flour and oil first, then I'll add my sugar later. You might be getting the type of cake that you don't want. So don't eyeball, follow the recipe to the letter, follow it step by step. And that is why if you buy a recipe and the recipe just gives you the list of the ingredients without telling you what step to take, I feel that you should ask the person who you bought the recipe from how you are going to bake the cake step by step, because the recipe does not just include the ingredients. Please note this: recipe is not just the list of the ingredients. No, recipe is the list of the ingredients and the list of how to bake the ingredients one after the other. There's some vanilla cakes that might be that it will say that mix your sugar and your butter first, or sugar and margarine first. Another recipe may say that mix your sugar and your oil first. Another recipe may say that okay, it is your egg and your flour that you mix well. All these things are important, and they are things that you should not skip when you are baking. All right, the third mistake that you should avoid when baking will be not to use quality ingredients. This is another reason why you will not get the right kind of baked goods at the end of your baking. Always use quality ingredients. I know that you are a beginner baker and probably you are just trying to cut costs, and then maybe you just buy a groundnut oil that looks somehow, or maybe the ones that are even already that is sleeping in coat, like we used to say, and then you say I'll just put it in the sun and the oil will come back, or maybe I'll just leave it for some time inside. But you already see that it's joined together. Such a oil should not be used for baking, especially because you are considerate about what your customer will eat, and also you are considerate about your customers coming back. So if you want your baked goods to come out right, if you want your customers to always come back, I will advise that you avoid the temptation of using less quality ingredients. So rather use quality ingredients. I'm always an advocate of quality over quantity, because you may save money when you buy less quality ingredients, but there are customers that know good cakes and will always come back simply because they will say that no, I trust what this person will give me to eat. So please use quality margarine, use quality flour. Another thing under using quality flour is to ensure that, because you are a beginner baker, you might be buying maybe 1 Congo, 2 cups. Ensure that where you are buying your baked goods is a place where you can see when the goods will expire, and it's not a place where the flour they just put it inside a bucket or maybe somewhere. No, ensure that it is somewhere maybe you can see the sack where the flour is being taken out from, and you can see the expiring date, that no, this is not expiring anytime soon. Because another thing that can affect your baking is the expiring date of the product. I think I've once fell victim of this also. I used an expired baking powder, and you already know my cake did not come out well. So ensure you also check the expiring dates of all the ingredients that you use, so that you will not waste resources because one of them have expired. I know when your baking powder is expired, all the other ingredients, cake that you're trying to bake, will be a waste. Also for eggs, ensure that where you get your eggs from, the eggs are always fresh. So if you are not somebody that breaks your egg one, ensure that where you buy from, you can attest that they always have fresh egg. So just like my mantra, I would advise that your mantra should also be quality over quantity, or quality over less quality ingredients. The fourth mistake that you want to avoid as a baker will be using less quality pan and the wrong pan for your cake measurement. So what do I mean by less quality pan? The truth is that there are some pans that you will use to bake and they will make your cake not to come out well. As a baker, you should know what measurement of cake is appropriate for your baking pan, so that the cake will not be undercooked or overcooked. I know somebody is saying, really, Can my baking pan size affect if my cake will be overcooked or undercooked? Yes, it can. If you have experienced your cake overcooking or undercooking, it might simply be because you used the wrong size of pan. So ensure that you use the right size of pan. Ensure that you go for a quality pan also. Also ensure you go for a quality pan. I think I should stress this. Don't buy pans that in 2 months time they're already bad and you have to buy another pan. I think it still goes back to my former point of buying quality over quantity. Even with your cake tools, ensure you buy quality over quantity so that you will not need to be replacing every time. The next video I'll be doing will be a video, or maybe a short, will be a video of you knowing the quantity of batter that should be in your 6 inches pan, 8 inches pan, 10 inches pan. So watch out for that video. The fifth mistake you should avoid when baking is not knowing your oven. I know some people don't know that the type of oven that they use affects the outcome of their baked goods. Have you ever baked before and your cake is bent, or your cake is done in the inside, your cake is not done in the outside, or your cake is just one shape or one or your cake is just one shape, it's not fully baked the way, there's a way you see cake when it is baked perfectly. It is very, very fine and the shape is on point. And there are some cakes that you see that it will be bent like this. You now need to be filling the cake or over trimming the cake. This can simply be because you have not mastered the kind of oven that you are using. So know the kind of oven you are using. Use oven thermometer. If your oven do not come with a thermometer, use oven thermometer. Of course, for somebody who has been a baker for a while, you may not necessarily need an oven thermometer because you already know the temperature at which you will bake. Even though I still advise an oven thermometer. This will also ensure that your cake are not overly burnt. You just use the temperature that is right for your cake. And if you are a beginner baker, always monitor your baking. Over time, you will get to know that, okay, this is the amount of volume I will put my light, that it will not affect my cake. Another thing under knowing your oven is that there are some oven that you don't know, you are not supposed to put a particular type of cake flavor under, simply because it will burn out fast, especially cakes that are oil based. I know that I've baked before that in like 10 minutes my chocolate cupcake and red velvet oil based cupcake, they came out in 10 minutes. Of course, I couldn't use the cake for the customer because it came out badly. And I now got to know that for chocolate cake and red velvet cake, it's better you put it in the middle or maybe the topmost part of your oven so that they will not burn out. So cakes that are margarine based like vanilla, fruit cake can be underneath. And always ensure that you don't you don't put too much fire. Understand your oven, know the quantity of fire that can bake your cake. And in your recipe also, the recipe should tell you, okay, this cake will bake for so minutes. So if your cake bakes faster than that, you should know that something is wrong. Or if your cake is baking more than that time, you should know that something is wrong. So I want you to watch this video again and take note of these 5 things that we have mentioned, because taking note of these 5 things and ensuring that you put them into practice and into cognizance will help your baking to move from 10 to level 100. So I believe that you've learned 1 or 2 from this video today, and I want to hear from you in the comment section what your experiences have been like before, and if you already know about these mistakes and probably you've had experiences around them, I want to know in the comment section. And don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to share this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Like I always say, let's keep growing and let's keep making the world a better place. Thank you.